I hate to tell you, friends, but this is price controls. Look, you gotta call a spade, and if we're gonna criticize the Krusty campaign for price controls on groceries, you have to criticize your guy when he does the same thing. So Trump has proposed capping credit card interest rates at 10%. And because I'm Bobbo Financials and not a bootlicking soggy brain who will worship and praise anything that the person that I'm gonna vote for will do, let me tell you why this is bad. First and foremost, the president does not have the authority to cap credit card interest rates anyways. This would be a law that would have to be passed through Congress, which would likely not pass. But let's just for a second say that it did. A credit card is an extremely high-risk, non-collateralized, short-term loan. This specifically makes credit card borrowing extremely high risk, meaning that lots of people that use credit cards don't pay them back. In order to compensate for the extremely high risk of people not paying back these short-term loans, credit card companies are forced to charge an extremely high rate. These rates are determined by the free market. Like anything, rates, prices are determined by supply and demand. And last time I checked, there was no shortage of banks who are willing to offer credit cards. So there's an extremely large number of competitors, all competing using the same technology for the same customers. And the rates are what they are because the rates are set by the marketplace. If a bank could charge lower interest rate on their credit card, they would to outcompete all of the other players. The reason the rates are so high is because of such a high rate of default. In the event that a campaign promise such as this was actually able to pass, this is what would happen next. First, banks would no longer be willing to extend credit to high-risk borrowers, meaning that the only person that would be able to get a credit card would be somebody that had an extremely high credit score. Which means that if you're a person with a bad credit score or no credit at all, the probability of you getting access to this money would not exist. Meaning that even if you were willing to pay 20 or 30% interest to have a short-term loan because you have to pay for something, medical supplies or school supplies or whatever the case may be, fixing your car so you can get to work, you would no longer have that ability. You wouldn't be able to borrow any money to solve that problem of yours, even if you were willing to pay the high interest rate, because they wouldn't have extended that courtesy to you from the start, because they could only charge you 10%. Now listen, I'm not here shilling for the credit card companies. I'm not acting like them charging all these fees and whatnot is such a great thing. I'm not saying that there's not predators out there. But this exists in any and all capital markets and any and all free market operations. It's not to say that they're good, but it is to say that these are adult human beings willingly choosing to pay a certain rate with their own free will. So the bureaucracy stepping in and saying that they can't charge that and that the people are unable to pay that amount, it has the opposite effect of what its supposed intent is, which of course is typical and standard for any bureaucratic program. So then you have a borrower like me, somebody that is financially responsible. I have credit cards primarily through Chase Bank and Southwest Airlines, and my interest rate is probably 25%. But you know what I never do? Pay interest on that credit card. I never pay the 25% because I pay my credit card bill off every single month before any interest accrues. So I don't care if the credit card interest rate for my card is 300%. It doesn't matter because I'm never going to pay interest on it. As a result of me being financially responsible, I get the free short-term loan of the credit card as well as the ledger to track all of my expenses. And then I get a tremendous amount of airline miles through Southwest. This accumulation of airline miles based on all the money that I spend allows me to fly free around the country 95% of the trips that I take annually. Southwest gets the benefit of having me use their credit card and use their airline. There's a lot of financial benefit of all the hotels and restaurants and Ubers and other transportation expenses that I have along the way, the other economic benefit. And then Southwest is able to crunch and use the data of what I spend my money on, where I spend it, how I spend it, and sell that data to analysts and advertisers, etc., to build a financial profile of which they can advertise to me about. And short of the business paying, fees to those credit card companies, which is just part of the cost of doing business, pretty much everyone benefits. But the small amount of people that take these short-term loans from Southwest or from Chase Bank and don't pay them back, well, that's why their interest rate is so high. It is not the job of the federal government or the president to set the price of products and services. And even though the government already has its dirty, filthy, grubby hands involved in way too many things that affect price, you absolutely should not be sitting there and cheering for yet another one of these policies because Donnie says it's good. It's so important for us to not be hypocritical when it comes to these things, especially if we're going to criticize the other side for literally doing the same thing. This is simply why blind worship of whatever your candidate is, does, and says and puts forward is bad. I'm going to vote for Donnie. I think he's better for a multitude of reasons. But to not call this out, to pretend like this is good, just shows me that you don't understand money, you don't understand finance, or if you do and you say it's good, then you're just a soggy brain bootlicker and it doesn't matter what that person says, you'll say that it's good anyways. Which, hate to tell you, makes you very much like the left, which we criticize all the time.